Good afternoon, everyone. This is Trader Tim from eminimine.com doing a trade recap video for today, Thursday, the 7th of February, 2019. And for those that were trading the markets this morning, you probably noticed it was a little squirrely out there in the ES. I ended up with three trades today. So we'll go through those, but here on the 30-minute chart, you can really see how we opened up and then we broke highs, and then we turned around and we broke lows, and then turned around again and broke highs, turned around again and broke lows. So this is that widening pattern that typically leads to some kind of a reversal. And in the context of the 30-minute chart, the prior trend being up, I was considering this widening sort of the kickoff to a larger sell-off. And so that's kind of what we got today, even though we rallied a little bit midday. Let's walk through on the 512 chart, and I'll show you how I traded it. I did have a question this week regarding, how am I getting into my trades, exactly where I'm placing my orders. And so if you're using a simple fib retracement here, I'm using the 50% retracement, and I'm just going to draw a long setup here. So if I want to enter long at a 50%, I draw up the setup, and I'm placing my order based on the 50%. If I want to go long, I'm going to take that number, and if it lands right on evens, quarters, halves, three quarters, then I'll just round up. So it's 27.07 and a quarter. So I'll round up 27.0750 is where I would place my limit order. So I'm placing a resting order at 750s, and then when the market comes down into my order, then I'm filled. So the order sits out there as a limit, and it's just a vice versa for shorts. If I was to draw up a short, I would then, these two happen to work out. I'm going to adjust this and pretend like it's an odd number here. So let's say now we have 27.08 and 92 is our decimal. So it's not an even tick. So in that case, I would round down to the nearest a tick, which is 75, and then I would subtract a tick because I want to go short. I want my order to be just below the 50 for a short. So 27.0850 is where I would place my order in this case for a short. So that's kind of the technical where I'm placing my orders for a setup. Now let's look at some of those setups here this morning. So the first one, 40s. So right off the bat, real messy, real messy this morning in this first 30 minutes. And you'll notice at the same time as the market was going down here, the nicey ticks were going up. So you had this divergence, which is always something to pay attention to. I kind of ignore the ticks in the first 15. So these first low ticks at about 750, 740 area, this is what I was considering, a relative low tick for the morning. So about 8:03, we had a low tick. But before that, I got to back up a little bit here. We had this real messy 20, 30 minutes of the morning. So I drew up the trading hours only high to low. I've got the trading hours only, the 30-minute high and the 30-minute low marked here as horizontal lines. And so I came in here and I just wanted to see if there was going to be a reaction at the 50%. And today there was. Notice just highs to lows. We came up, we traded at the 50. I'm not doing anything here other than just observing. But once we start to sell off, I make a note of the swing low here. So we have a low, we have a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. This swing low is then broken right about here. It was right at the top of the hour. And so I'd like to first draw up the opposing setup. So here the short is traded. That's the direction that I want to be trading. But I just want to make sure we don't stop exactly at the opposing long setup. So I draw that up. You can see very clearly we broke through it. We broke through the 60-1/8 of the long. So I say, okay, that's great. Now let me draw up the very first, or what is sort of the second setup, or the first setup to follow this 27.0988 up here. So I just draw up the short like this, and then doing just as I stated earlier, 27.0875, and it's rounding down to the next tick, because when you're trading, price has to go. If price just touches your order, you're typically not going to get filled. In very, very rare situations will you get filled if price just touches your order. It has to trade through. So this way, my order was resting at 850s, and then we traded through that, touched the 50%, and then I'm filled, and then I can just ride the trade out. So this one didn't go very far. We got first target hit down here at the negative 23% target. You could also use 2 points somewhere in that range. The distance between the 50 and the negative 23 is obviously going to change based on how big of the distance the two anchor points are. If you have a real small setup, you're going to have a smaller target. A bigger setup is going to have a bigger target. But because I had the larger short above us, I was looking at 04s or 0450s, somewhere down in this area, the negative 23% target of the larger short. So even though I entered on this smaller one, I was looking for us to make a move to the larger short. Now, anytime we're within the first 30-minute range, it's important to watch and pay close attention to how we react when we break, in this case, down below the first 30-minute range. And today we got a nice couple of legs lower. I was trailing my stop above the swing high. You can also just draw up the next 50% retracement and trail that 60-1/8, or draw up the full retracement. But I ended up trailing, and as we got down here, I had my order right here actually. I was giving it a little bit of room, and that's when we kind of broke, but we really couldn't break with much strength and follow through, and then reverse. So small gain there on that short. Next, we had, so now I'm saying, okay, well, we couldn't break down. We couldn't break down below lows. So now that we're breaking back into the first 30-minute range, there's a good chance that we'll go all the way to the top of the first 30-minute range anytime we come back into it. So I left the short up, but we got this nice little double bottom down here, and we had, it wasn't the low tick of the day at the time, but it was a relatively low tick here at 03, 04 area, plus the double bottom, plus we broke the swing high. So I ended up taking this long here with sort of the expectation that, well, maybe will be a range day, and we'll go back just between the bottom of the 30-minute range to the top and back to the bottom. So I was looking for us to make a move up here to 1350s. Same thing, entered 270750s, placed my order, and then we started moving really quickly. So in this case, we got that negative 23% target hit right away, which was nice that it was right at the short as well. So then once we broke that 60-1/8 of the short here, I just got rid of that. But we were moving pretty fast, so this one I trailed each candle, the low of each candle, as we were just moving pretty quickly, and I got taken out up here on the second portion. So I kind of broke it up into thirds, took the first target here. I trailed each candle for the kind of the middle third, and then I drew up the full, or what was the next retracement, and kind of left my stop a little bit further down at 09s, and we actually ended up coming all the way back down there, and I got stopped out. So we didn't quite make it to the top of the first 30-minute range before getting a little bigger sell-off. the next trade that I had, so again, another winner, but not, anything crazy. But the next guy turned out real nice. So then we rallied, and it was, where are we at? Oh, hour into the day or so. And usually about an hour into the day is where, if you're going to get a reversal, that's usually where it's going to happen. So at the time we had really been making this widening formation where we kind of moved lower and then we moved higher, and we were just started tight over here on the left and then getting wider and wider and wider as we went to the right. Oh, one thing I should mention about that, the last trade is a better. So today I had left my stop under the 61.8 here, but with this double top here, underneath the swing low would have been a better place. Hindsight, it's only a point and a half or so closer, but for whatever reason I left it down here below the 61.8. But that was one thing that I had written down in my notes that I would have done differently on that trade. So I wanted to mention that. But as we go forward, we had a high tick up here at an hour in, 8:30 my time, so it'd be 10:30 Eastern. So we had a high tick, but we were in a nice little series of retracement longs here. So I wanted to make sure that we broke a swing low, ideally, but at least break the 61.8. So I didn't take the short up here because the long had traded first. So in some cases I will, but today was a little squirrely, and so I wanted a little bit more confirmation. So I just waited a little bit longer. I let the 61.8 break. I let this swing low get taken out, and then I just drew up the short here. And once again, got a nice reaction, rounding down and subtracting a tick in this case because it's short. I want my order to be below the 50, and then because it's an odd number, I want to round down, so quarter, and then subtract a tick, 16 even. So that's where I got in on the short. First target was hit again really quickly at the negative 23. And again, I'm thinking, okay, here we dipped down into the first 30-minute range. We had a high tick at the high of the day. That could very well be the high for the day. And I'm thinking, okay, back down, bottom of the first 30-minute range. And so, same thing, take a small portion off at the first target, and then looking to trail the next 61.8. So 16 was the entry, and then I just trailing, I just put my stop 27.15s, so just a couple of ticks above the 61.8, and then that's when we started really selling off. And so I came in here as we started to go down quickly here. I mean, we're talking, it was like 3-4 minutes, for this big sell-off. 48 to 52, yeah, so about 4 minutes, and so that's really, really fast. I mean, these candles are like boom, 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 forming really quickly. So rather than just kind of panicking and hitting the flatten button, I prefer to trail each candle, and I'm just kind of hovering over the dome. I got my stop in my hand, so to speak, and I'm just, okay, every time a candle makes a new low, then I move my stop. So like here, I just hover over this candle, 953s, so I put my stop at 2710s. Next candle doesn't make a new low, so I'm just waiting, and then the next candle makes a new low. Okay, I bring it down to 975. Next candle doesn't make a new low, but these are happening like in 10 seconds. A few seconds these candles are forming, so it's like new low, okay, what's the high of that candle? It's 842s, so I just bring my stop to 2709s. So I'm basically just moving my stop down, 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 down until we get some of these green candles that come up and break that candle's high. So I ended up taking the remaining position off at 52 here, 852, above the high, and I had my stop at 4.25, so it was like right over here time wise. And at that same time, we got a low tick for the day. And so that was, what was that, 12 points, I think, 16s down to 4, oh, 4.25. So, I mean, that's a solid 12 pointer. And then we had a low of the day, and we had broken through the first 30-minute range. So I'm thinking, okay, low tick of the day, broke through. Here maybe we'll bounce back up and just continue range bound. Now, obviously, as I scroll forward, we dropped another 8-10 points, but I'm not so concerned with getting every tick out of the entire move. I just want to catch the meat of the move. Ideally, stay in as long as possible. If I had broken up, this was happening so fast that I didn't have a chance to separate my my stop order, and I was okay with that. I mean, we made a low tick at the low down here, and 10 points. There's nothing wrong with taking 10 points. So um, nothing I really would have done differently on that except maybe breaking up, leaving an extra contract to try and maybe catch a few more of these swing highs. But even that, if you're trailing swing high